A bit of that car, but the engine is 1926. So whenever you're ready.
Ready? Mark, get set, go.
As you can see, the frame just took a couple of guys to pick this up real light. The whole design philosophy on the Model T was to make it light and rugged. So it was really light. Two guys pick it up, but see these cars with 2 tons of weight. You know, it's a half-ton car, but people would put 2 tons of grain in the back and drive it to town. You know, it'd be sitting like this. You could hardly steer it because it would be such an angle, but they just kept on going. The engine Joey here is picking up is a 177 cubic inch 4-cylinder, making a whopping 20 horsepower. But I'm sure a lot of you guys out there are saying my lawnmower has more power than that, but the idea there was all about torque. They didn't need high-end speed. The roads didn't allow that. But I've seen Model Ts that have hauled, you could hook up to a box car and it would tow a box car. So not a lot of horsepower, but a lot of power. It's a 4-cylinder inline engine. You can see the box on top, which contains 4 coils. You know, the saying that there's nothing new any longer. Now, all the new cars, that's one of the fancy features, is having a coil for each cylinder. And that's what Ford was doing back in the teens, at the turn of the century. So, as close as we've ever come to a perpetual motion machine, there's no fuel pump. It just runs by gravity. The tank's up higher than the carburetor, just flows down. No water pump. Works the same way as an old coffee pot. Hot water rises, cold water sinks, and it just makes a big circle. There's not even an oil pump on the car. It has a magneto that produces its own electricity off the back of the crankshaft. And since Ford figured as long as he had magnets spinning around in a big circle, he might as well use them to pump the oil in, or sling the oil in the right direction. And feel free, if anyone's got questions, just yell out a question or two, and we'll try and answer it.
What year was that?
The engine and most of the chassis is 1926. So that's at the very end of the Model T. The Model T was a 1909 model year. Model T was introduced in about October of 1908 and ran into the 1927 and produced almost 16 million Model Ts inside the U.S., and they also produce cars in Europe and Canada. So there were a lot of them. I'm sorry? They did not. They were listed. They were sold in 08, but they were listed as 1909 model years. How many people out there have restored some of their own cars out here? It took a lot longer than this, didn't it? These guys are moving. We're short a man. Our record for these guys is 8 minutes and 32 seconds, but one of the other team members is actually the Cars Club president who's putting this on. So he's got a few other responsibilities today, but these guys are moving along very well. 4 minutes, 5 seconds. So the chassis is all correct, Model T. The engine, the frame, the transmission, wheels. The body is kind of a homemade contraption, but that was very common. Guy would buy a Model T. They were cheap and adapted to the use that he needed. Or if he had a frame, turn it into his pumpkin wagon. I don't know what this was used at, but it looks like they're working on the wiring now. How many wires are there on that car? 6? Maybe?
How many lights?
We don't actually have the lights yet. They don't get on, but...
Someone wants to donate some parts.
So,
Battery's connected. Battery's good.
any other questions about the Model Ts or the build team itself? What's our time at? 5 minutes, 38 seconds. So they're moving along. You can see them with the brake rods here, working on the brake rods. Those brake rods only controlled rear brakes for parking brake. When you push the brake pedal, it didn't actually go to the wheels. There's no brakes at all on the front, and the brake actually was a band around the transmission drum that slowed the drive shaft. So another reason for not needing more than 20 horsepower if you had no way to stop it. Driving a Model T is a little bit different than your average car also. You have 3 pedals, but none of them control the gas. Your gas is actually controlled by hand up on the steering wheel. Your right pedal would be your brake. You would use the left pedal as your transmission, your low gear and high gear. You would push it down for low gear. You build up a little speed, take your foot off, and it would switch into high gear. The exact same way an automatic transmission today works. This, you used your foot. 40s, 50s, 60s, they used hydraulic fluid. Now they use an electric solenoid, but it all works exactly the same. Something that was pioneered by Ford. It's a bulletproof design. And then the third pedal in the center was your reverse. You would hold your clutch in the middle and then push the pedal in the middle to go backwards. And while you were driving, you also had to be conscious of your ignition timing. You would, depending on your speed, you were also adjusting your spark, your throttle. You'd have to mix the carburetor mixture. So driving a car took a little bit of effort. What's our time? 7:46.
Joe, you ready? I'll jump over the top. Yep, I'm on it. I'm not in.
Getting the last little bits here. All right.
Ready? Go
ahead.
Oh, almost.
Going out that way.
Oh, you got it a little flooded, but we've still got some time, right? 8:30. Got to get it cleared out now. We don't. I'm kind of mean. We don't get these guys a starter. By 1926, they had a starter. We don't want them to cheat, so we don't even have one on the car. Oh.
Come on, Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Chemical.
She's a temperamental machine.
First time. Fire up.
Whoa. Having not on? That's why she's not starting.
Turn the key on.